Hello and welcome to House of Cult, brought to you by The Pretty Cult. My name is Alessandro. Joining me is Ariel, the owner of The Pretty Cult. And today we are so honored to welcome singer, songwriter, musician, mug salesman, meme lord, Echoes to the show.
Hello, thank you
Welcome.
so much for having me.
Thank you so
I'm
much
so
for joining
excited.
us. We're
Yeah.
so excited. Absolutely. Obviously, we're chatting today because you just put out a new record, Quiet in Your Service. We've
Yeah.
got a ton of stuff to discuss, ranging from reinvention of sound, reinvention of your approach to music, but
hmm
also addressing topics, vulnerable topics and finding healing in the process as well. So
Yeah.
much and such a new chapter. But before we get into any of that, I sort of want to touch on your origins a little bit here
Ooh,
you
okay.
know so let's bring it back in time a little bit.
Okay.
Where did you grow up, in LA area, or where exactly are you from?
I'm from a little town in Washington called Battleground, Washington.
I know it very
And
well.
you do?
I'm from
Really?
Seattle.
What? No one knows Battleground. Oh my, okay. Hell
Whoa.
yeah. So, okay, even crazier. We all just figured out we live like on the same street, basically, to anyone
Yeah.
listening. So now we're realizing that we're from like the same woods. Yeah,
Yeah,
I grew up in Battleground, and everyone's always like, huh, I've never heard of it. So you're the first person ever
it's
who's
got a
heard of it.
great
So
skate park.
a great skate park, it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, and a really good coffee shop. So that's where I'm from. I'm from the middle of nowhere. I'm even further north. So like Battleground's the main place, but I'm like from the woods.
Whoa, that's so
hmm
interesting. So
Yeah.
obviously, my Washington geography, like I'm from Seattle, but weirdly enough, I feel like I know California's geography way more than my own home state. Battleground is south, like
hmm
towards Portland.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so Portland would be the closest major city for you growing up
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Battleground.
So for a long time we always said Echoes was Portland based because like no one knew where Battleground was. But now I'm like saying I'm from Battleground is sick as fuck. So
Yeah,
like yeah, from the farm town.
that's so interesting because I feel like people that live in Vancouver, Washington do the same thing too. They say they're from
Yeah, they
Portland.
do.
And it's
hmm
also like, because if you say Vancouver, they're like, "Oh, you're from Canada," and you're like, "No,
hmm
I'm from,
Yeah.
basically Portland."
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I'm from the woods. That's where this all started.
That's awesome. So, I mean,
hmm
with that being said, like growing up in Battleground, which yeah is like one of the coolest, I feel like, town names ever. You know,
Yeah.
what were sort of like your earliest memories of discovering music? Was it being played around the house by your friends, siblings, parents, anybody like that? And you know, how were you sort of discovering music, and what was the environment for music like where you were growing up?
Yeah, so I am actually an only child, so I was always finding ways to entertain myself. And my parents love music, and they were always playing music growing up. And I always was singing. And I told them, like, I'm gonna grow up and become a singer. Like, that was just my thing. Like, I'm very big into manifesting, so I feel like it's little me at 5, like, new. So I just told everybody around me, like, I'm gonna be a singer. And I started writing songs and poems when I was around 8 or 9. I played in some little bands in high school and was like very passionate about that. And it wasn't until I was about 19 that was when I started Echoes. Yeah. So Echoes is turning 12 this year, which is crazy.
Wow.
hmm
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
what were some of those early bands like that you were starting?
My first one was we would play at like all the local coffee shops, and it was acoustic guitar and vocals, and that was the vibe. It was so fun. I remember I used to get in trouble for flyering the high school. They would be like, "You can't put up these flyers for your little show," and I was like 14, and I'm like, "What?" And so I would like flyer the whole school and get in trouble for it, and then put them back up, and it was fun. It was like it was really cool. So I played a lot of shows in high school. And then, yeah, when Echoes started, I was 19. So I kind of went from playing bands in high school, getting out of high school, and being like, I still love music, want to do music. I'm going to try this out and see what happens.
One of the first things you notice from your music is your voice. Like it has such a haunting and impassioned quality to it that really,
Thank
and I'm not
you.
just saying this, it really does have like the chills factor every time you
Oh,
listen to it. Sort of curious, when did you first discover that you did have that voice within you?
Yeah, I actually have a very, very vivid memory of that. I want to say 9, and I got asked to sing at my cousin's wedding. And I did, and everybody was like, hey, you guys got to do something about this to my parents. They're kind of like, there's a thing that you should put her in lessons and maybe see what happens. And so I did. I was 9, and I remember seeing people react, and I was kind of like, they say you have like a moment where you become sentient as a human.
Yeah.
It was that. So it was really powerful, but also I was singing to heal myself. That was like the first time I ever sang for people. I would sing because I experienced depression early on as a kid, and I just would sing in my room and be like, wow, like this makes me feel better. And then it wasn't until I like sang for someone that people were like, oh, there's this thing that we need you to explore. So really grateful I got into vocal lessons, and that absolutely changed my life. It helped me develop my voice even more over time. And yeah, that was kind of how that happened.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as you discover your voice, you're writing songs. So, like, did you always find yourself like journaling and writing just as a kid as well too?
Yeah, I would like come home from school and be sad about like maybe getting bullied or made fun of, and I would write a poem about it, but then I would sing it to myself and then like call a friend and sing it to them on the phone, which is so funny to think about like a landline. I'd be like, guys, I got this mixtape for you, and I would sing for them literally at like 9 and 10. And yeah, they were all really supportive and would be like, keep writing. It was really, really cool. Like I haven't really, yeah, it was a really cool experience, like discovering that I had this voice that I used to heal myself and was like realizing I can help other people with it. So,
And then, you mentioned that you started Echoes when you were 19. Um, you know, Obviously the music was more in the EDM vein of things,
hmm
definitely a lot more of electronic elements.
hmm
What sort of drove you to that genre in the first place, especially considering that you do have this like I feel like your vocal style and how you I guess sort of just showcase your talent, you would think it would immediately start with something like rock or maybe emo or something like that, but going to EDM, that's a very interesting
yeah,
first place.
I I feel like the funny thing is like before Echoes, I was doing more of like acoustic singing on some friends' rock records, like in the area locally at like 16, 17, and thought like, oh, that was what I was really passionate about. And then I started hearing more electronic music and thinking like this could be really cool for me to explore. Like I just really loved it and got really inspired by it, and friends were encouraging me to just start reaching out to producers and being like, you should see if anyone wants you to sing on their tracks. And it kind of, at the time, God, like I feel ancient. It was 2012, 2013, and I was tweeting people. Like people were like, yo, just tweet people that you sing. And I know that sounds very cringe, but that's like
Oh,
how it happened. I started tweeting people and being like, yo, I'm a singer. Do you want to work together? And like people would reply. And I feel like Twitter back then was so like new still, and
yeah.
like very much like you're sending something into the ether and then someone captures it and respond. Like I don't know, it was very interesting. So that was how I got into electronic music, was literally just by tweeting people.
That's
hmm
awesome. I mean,
hmm
God, 2012,
I know.
hell of a year, hell of a year.
It was. Yeah. And I think like at the time, like electronic music and Twitter, it was such a thing. Like people would just post their SoundCloud, right? And be
Mhm.
like, listen to this. So it would just, I guess the algorithm did exist back then, right? You would
Mhm.
just see random things. So I would see these random SoundCloud links and I would just message people. And that's how I ended up meeting my old collaborator who I started Echoes with, was through Twitter and like being like, let's work together. Crazy how that happened.
That's so cool because, obviously, yeah, that is, I guess, in
Yeah.
many ways the standard now, like DMing
hmm
people,
Yeah.
hopping on a track, like obviously, like maybe more so in the hip hop world. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, back then, like it really was like EDM was really synced up with like that, like perfect kind of sweet spot of when social media was just starting to kind of become
Yeah.
what it is now.
Yeah, and it was like I had heard electronic music for the first time in like 2012. Like I didn't grow up with it, and I remember hearing it and feeling so inspired by it and just being like, okay, I want to try this and see, if anyone who makes it on Twitter wants to maybe work together. And I was from Battleground. There's not really a music scene there, and I didn't know like where to go or who to find people to collaborate with outside of my friends who I was playing in bands with. And so I was like, I'm going to reach out to the internet ether and see what happens. And yeah, it's so I always feel like when people ask me like advice, I'm like, I just kind of put it out there and it came back. And again, going back to manifesting, like I feel like I don't have like a method other than I just had this like delusion of, I guess, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to put it out there and something's going to come out of it. And it did. And it's crazy to me, but that worked.
Fuck
Mhm.
Yeah, I find that really interesting as you were talking because I'm really big on manifestation as well, and your method is similar to mine. I
Mhm.
feel like sometimes, and there's no shade to this, I support any way of whatever someone's magical
Yeah.
manifestation practices, but I'm not over here making like 9,000 boards and
Mhm.
writing and all that stuff is very powerful, but I'm a firm believer as well of and the way what you're saying really resonates with me is you're like, I just put myself out there on Twitter, very young, starting out. And like, I still do as an owner and wanting to work with artists, I still do that today. I send cold emails, I send cold
Mhm.
DMs to artists or other businesses that I think are doing something cool. And I'm like, hey, I would
Yeah.
love to work together. And it really is a powerful tool of manifestation. Just to me, there's nothing bigger than action. You can write all you want, make all the moves
Mhm.
you want, but if you aren't going to actively put your own energy out there into doing what you want, it not to
Yeah.
say writing and those other things don't work, but I feel like
Yeah.
taking action is what's really going to take that energy and that force field and really make things happen. Does it happen every time? Absolutely not. But you know what? At least you tried. And I'm a big believer too, where, hey, it's not happening here for a certain reason, but that energy's
Yes.
out there. And now maybe something bigger or more aligned with me, or
Mhm.
for whatever reason is going to come into my orbit because I'm opening myself up to this. So I love that. And I think it's so cool that you were starting that from like a very young age, just and that is the one cool powerful thing about social media,
Yes.
has its issues as we all know, but I think it is a really cool tool that being from a really small town, you had access through the internet and
Mhm.
having the willpower and just being like, hey, this person's cool, like I'm just going to message them and see what they
Yeah.
say, no matter where you
Yeah.
live, we're able to like all connect in that way. So I love that because that is similarly how I conduct myself. And yeah, I
I
just had
love
to
that.
chime in on that because I was like,
Yeah.
manifestation practice is exactly like mine. I think
Oh,
about it and then I just do it and
yes.
see what happens.
Yes, I love that. And it takes this like fearlessness, right? Because you're putting yourself out there. And like, I even look back to 19-year-old me who was fearlessly messaging people and being like, I would even burn CDs and just hand them out to people. Like, I gave zero fucks. And it's crazy because now I'm, not really like that as much as I would like to be. And I try to think, what would 19-year-old me do? She didn't give a fuck. She was like, gotta listen to my music. And so I think I love what you're saying too, of like if something doesn't work out, it's just clearing the space for something bigger and better and more aligned. And like that's absolutely how I like to live my life too. Like I love the line, everything I want also wants me. And if it doesn't happen for you, it's because future you's doing something else. Like I'm like, I'm not to go on a manifestation tangent, but
Please.
like my favorite thing is like the reason that I like to look at it as like the reason you're doing something or you have desire is because there's future you on the other end of the string doing that. And you feel this like pull, right? From future you. So who's to say that 19-year-old me wasn't feeling the tug of me pulling the string now, like in this very moment of being like, send that tweet because eventually you're going to do all these things and make all these records and like I don't know. So I guess I can even when I'm what am I trying to say? Even when I'm like I wish I was more like 19-year-old me, like who I am now is like also speaking to her. I love looking at things like that. Like time isn't linear. I know. Yeah, that's
I
like my
love
favorite.
that. I absolutely love that. I've never thought about it that way,
Yeah,
and now
same.
I totally have my wheels turning, and I'm like, it's so true.
Mhm.
Work that I put in my younger self is affecting now, and I see it with my brand every day. Things
Mhm.
grinding on, or networking, or meeting people, or whatever,
Yeah.
and doing work on myself, so I could get to a point where things come now, and even now me, I'm still not where, I mean, right, isn't that we're never all where we want to be, but
Yeah.
like working on things now, there's a future part of me that's like, yeah, like you're going to do this now because you don't know years down the line, 6 months down the
Mhm.
line, whatever is pulling me. That's such an interesting concept. And I love
Yeah.
that.
I
Never
It's
love
my
thought.
that.
Thank you. That's like my favorite way to look at things. I learned that from, I don't know if you guys follow Mommy Onami on Instagram. Love
Mhm.
them. I've taken so many like meditation things from them, and they talk a lot about that. I believe it comes from the fourth way teachings. But I have really bad ADHD, so I never finish books. So I read like a fourth of it. So I don't want to misquote myself, but that's where I learned it from. And I have applied that to everything in my life of like, there's a future you on a not so distant timeline pulling on the string. And it's like, I love also saying that like anything that doesn't work out is a redirection. And that's kind of helped me stay positive in anything that I'm doing in business and, art, especially being, just being a business owner is like, you have to keep this like positivity no matter what, because you're going to get faced with a lot of stuff. So,
Absolutely. That's so good too.
mhm,
And even as a business owner, but also being an artist, like sometimes hearing no, I do take it sensitively, that I think
mhm,
it's me or my art, or they don't like the brand that I created or the clothing that I designed, but that's not always the
mhm,
case. It's the artist side. And you're so right. It could be not right now, but there's a reason for later. And that's so
totally.
important to remember.
I also recently started this like way of thinking, and I don't really know where it fully came from, but it's like if something doesn't work out for you, and if it's not working out in a way that you can't make sense of, because we all go through things like that, right? It's like, why isn't this working out? I tell myself that if you could rationalize why, you would choose that thing or stay in that thing, and it's not meant for you. So that's why you can't make sense of it. And I feel like that has been like my guiding light for everything that I'm doing with my art, with my business, just as a person. And it helps so much to shift that mindset of like, why is this happening to me? But it's actually happening for me. You just can't see it yet. Again, you on the other end of the string can fully see it, and it'll make sense one day. It always does.
Ugh, I love this. I
Yeah,
love
this
this.
is
Thank you.
such a
Me too. This
valuable insight. Like,
thank you.
I hope
Yeah.
anybody listening to this that is feeling discouraged, in their field or whatever art they're
Hmm.
working on, their business, maybe they're a younger person trying to find their footing, like please take note of everything that you just said. Like that is
Thank
so
you.
valuable and
Yeah. Yeah.
commendable.
It's what keeps me going, guys, because it can be really hard. And like, I also told myself the other day, like, I think we're living in a time where there's so many things happening where we fail to realize that like the win, everyone's like, what win? And when's it going to be my time? Or when am I going to get the
Mhm.
win? But like, I think the act of being able to do whatever your passion is, that's the win.
Yeah.
And to not give up, right? And just like making art in any capacity, there's your win. And anything else that follows after that is like a double win.
Yeah, imagine if we were
Hmm.
working at the fucking DMV. That would suck. You know what I'm saying? It could be much
Yeah.
worse. It could be
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So it's just the act of making the art, and it's like, oh, I could literally talk about this for forever. This is my favorite shit to talk about is like manifesting and staying in like the gratitude even when it's hard, because there's so many things that like you just never know how it's going to go, but you just have to keep your eye on the goal and just not give up. That's how you become successful, is not quitting, because there's every reason in the world to quit, right? Comparison, exhaustion. But if you love what you do, you're going to push through that, and it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. I love talking about this stuff too. I think it could be its own podcast episode about manifestation.
Hmm.
Going back into, when you were, primarily working in the EDM space,
Hmm.
you had tremendous success with it, racking up millions of streams and working with people like Illenium, Seven Lions.
Yeah.
Um, with that being said, like, how fast did you feel like it was beginning to reach that level? And how would you say that that world or industry sort of differs from maybe more the rock and alternative space?
Yeah. I, man, I'm trying to think of like the first time that I realized that my old bandmate and I, we were signed to Seeking Blue Records, which is Mr. Suicide Sheep record
Mhm.
label from YouTube. And they are super amazing, very much in the electronic space. And they were connecting us to other people in that world and like doing collaborations. But I remember getting a message from Illenium. This is like my favorite memory. He like sent me a message asking if we would sing and produce on his track, and we did. And then he sent us a video of him playing this like really small venue and was like, I'm sorry, there's not a lot of people, but the next one will be. And the next one was this like massive festival. And I was like, yes. I was like, I knew it would happen. Like, it was just crazy. That was again like 2013 or like,
Wow.
I'm really bad with time. So 2013, I think that was when we were like, oh, whoa, like this is really fun and cool and people are listening. And I remember like seeing the streams and freaking out because like I couldn't fathom, and I still can't, that many people have heard my voice. It's very, very weird and very cool.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
must have felt so surreal. And then,
Mm-hmm.
doing all these incredible things in that space, what was sort of the thought process behind sort of moving, I wouldn't say away, but moving on from maybe EDM and pivoting more towards rock and alternative music? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of seems like, from my interpretation, could it possibly be because the subject matter of your music was skewing more vulnerable and the catharsis that you're trying to find through your music, did it make sense to sort of pivot sonically?
Yeah, I feel like our my first album was more, even though you're gone, it was like electronic alternative is what we were calling
Mhm.
it. And we've never been able to like pinpoint a genre. Like people have called it Echoes like a genreless mist, which like
Mhm.
I kind of feel that way. And I don't know if that has ever been intentional other than just creating what feels right. And I
Mhm.
think there was like elements of alternative rock like hiding within the soundscape, and I always kind of felt like, again, I know this sounds crazy, but I just had visions of me performing with a band. And I just was like, I'm going to follow whatever my intuition is telling me to do. And it was when my bandmate and I had parted ways in 2021. We're on good terms, and he's doing a bunch of like trailer music and stuff. And like, that's his world and killing it. I was kind of at this like, fork in the road of like, what do I want to do with Echoes? And I was like already writing kind of more in the alternative, just my demos. And I had sat in on a writing session with my friend's band to write for them. And it just naturally kind of fell into place of like, they were like, oh, this is really fun. We should maybe start writing together every week and see what happens. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is this that manifestation that I saw of like me performing with a band? And started just going over there every week, and we ended up writing an alternative record together. And I was like, this feels right, this is where my heart is, and I'm just really excited to keep following that line of intuition. And I'm also at this like point in my life where I'm truly following what feels good and just natural, and anything that is meant for you, again, I think just kind of unfolds naturally. And this just was so organic, and now I'm here and I'm like, all right, this is the manifestation in real time. Like I'm just gonna keep writing and seeing what comes out. So to answer your question, I think like the lyrics have always had kind of a vulnerability to them, but this is just uh it's like a new way of delivering it, I
Mhm.
think. Yeah, but it feels right. It feels very good. Feels like it's what it needed to become. Yeah.
Absolutely. And who were those collaborators that you were working with, like in terms of the band that you were putting
Yeah,
together?
so my friends Andre and Ryan, they're in a band called Gold Souls. Love them. So I was working with them. I also worked with one of my longtime collaborators, Charlie Snyder. He's the best. We wrote a lot of my first record together, and so he came in on the record. And then I also worked with Canner, Becca, and KJ Strock. He did a lot of
Mhm.
co-production on the record, and so it was really cool working with a lot of people in the alternative space and just really bringing Quiet in Your Service to life the way that it ended up coming out.
Were there any artists, maybe obviously your music is so genre fluid, but like were there any specific like rock artists or records that were sort of inspiring you around that time as well?
Yeah, we were listening to a lot, like collectively, the boys and I always refer to them as the boys, the band. We were listening to a lot of Sleep Token, Bad
Mhm.
Omens. I was listening to so much Ethel Cain during that time too.
Hell yeah.
I feel like those three were like very much, on rotation while we were writing.
Ethel Cain is the best. The best.
I could go on forever. Every interview, I'm always like, let me tell you about how much I love Ethel Cain. So yeah,
It's
Ronit showed me her actually, and yeah, obsessed. So good. Hmm.
I always that's like my one bragging moment was
Hmm.
I did her first ever major interview like
Hmm.
ever. It was for
Hmm.
AP back in 2021 and
I think I read that.
oh hell
Loved
yeah.
it.
Fuck
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because
She
that's when yeah,
she's so cool.
awesome.
She's the
Hell yeah,
coolest and
yeah.
fucking just absolutely owning shit these
Oh
days. It's
yeah,
so cool.
so everything amazing. Love her. Yeah, so listen, rinsed in Preacher's Daughter, rinsed in a lot of the demos that are all over, and yeah, big inspiration for this album, definitely, and a lot of Spirit Box too. Courtney's vocals are just insane. A lot of inspiration from her as well.
And jumping back into going into Quiet in Your Service, where
Hmm.
was sort of your headspace at? Because obviously you've detailed that this was an album that you sort of are exercising a lot of trauma,
Hmm.
feelings, but also trying to find healing within that as well, too.
Yeah, I was in a very dark headspace at that time. I was getting out of a really toxic relationship and just feeling like I didn't know who I was anymore. I think we get out of things and kind of feel like, who am I? Like, who do I want to be? You lose sight of yourself a lot. And so this record was that space for me to like really step into figuring out who I was again and who I want to become. And it's, I always reference like my younger self and how like I as you turn 30 you bring back a lot of a lot of the parts of your younger self that you kind of maybe stashed away because people told you were too much or too this or too that. And I finally felt like I was in a place where I can, try to return to her and find and bring those parts out in a new way. So this record really helped me do that because yeah, when I started writing it, I was definitely very, very sad. So it helped me reclaim my voice and just like, I mean, even just on the creation process of this record, it just really helped me learn how to trust myself as a person, as an artist, as a woman, and gave me my confidence back in a way that I like never knew existed.
I love that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you also have been like very open that like with your music, you want to be sort of an open book with your fans as well, too. Like letting them
Hmm.
know essentially like they're not alone in any of their struggles, And I think that's
Mm-mm.
so important for sure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I always say that like my fans really just feel like a big family, truly, and they like I think as someone who like has ADHD and is kind of awkward and anxious talking about myself is like I feel like no one sees me, right? Or understands me or I'm misunderstood often. But my fans are like, "No, like we struggle with these things too." And so I like want them to feel less alone, but they also help me feel less alone. It's really beautiful. It's like this symbiotic thing of like, is that the right word? Right?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's very like, it's beautiful how like just my art, I always say like I put it out into the world to feel less alone, and they all reflect back to me like, no, you're not alone, we feel this too. And it's really beautiful.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's
I love
Thank
that.
awesome.
you.
That's
Love
Thank
that.
awesome.
you.
Yeah, and what would you say like from this record would be like the most personal to you and maybe or also like your favorite track within the album as well?
Oh, I feel like it changes depending the day sometimes, but I think my top two would be "Quiet in Your Service," the title track, and then "Tolerance." And
Hmm.
I think the title track is my favorite because it's really a testament to I've been small in service of you, and the pain that it brought me wasn't worth it.
Hmm.
And realizing that while making that song was just like so empowering. And I just felt like I like hearing myself say that to myself. I always listen back through my music because it makes me feel good to hear it and process what I was feeling.
Hmm.
And that song was just like, all right, you don't have to make yourself small anymore. You don't have to, people please anymore. You don't have to get into relationships that make you push those parts of yourself down that are, the light that I bring to the world. And that song really did that for me. And then Tolerance was just such a spiritual song for me to create because I felt like I was channeling something the day I recorded that. And after I had recorded that song, I just like I cried so much, and it felt like this huge release. Just I was just like, oh my God, like it felt like my higher self, again, the self on the other end of the string, like speaking to me. And it just felt really, really cleansing to make that song. So those are my two favorite songs for sure.
Really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah, no, I
you.
think that, yeah, just like as someone who's very much about a healing journey, as you were talking about that, I was like, you're on your healing journey. And I think that, yeah, crying sometimes is the body's just way of releasing trauma. And that was clearly really important for you in that moment. And that's just really beautiful that
Thank you so
music
much.
is able to bring that to you. I love that.
Yeah. I thank you. I do too. It's that healing of singing it and like truly feeling it and releasing it. And you're right, crying is like rinsing yourself of that trauma. Otherwise it gets stored all over your body. And that for me, I mean, I like fell to the floor and was like, "Oh my gosh." Like it was just that those words needed to come out, those melodies needed to come out. And that's why I make art. It's just to heal myself. And again, I will always say that it just blows my mind that it can help other people too. Like it's beyond my wildest dreams that I can help other people process emotion through what I'm going through. Forever
That's
grateful for that.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, I it's so interesting to hear how you analyze your own music and
Hmm.
what you're getting out of it. And I don't know, I've probably have done 400 interviews in my life. And of course, I would say 99% of the time, when you hear an artist talk about the catharsis of writing music, it's genuine. But maybe sometimes, someone will be like, yeah, it was a cathartic process, but you're not, maybe it's a little bit just surface level. When I'm hearing you talking about it, it feels extremely genuine and
Oh,
very, very tangible and real.
thank
Um,
you.
and that's really that's just it really is so great to hear that you got so much out of this process making this album.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for my art because that's the one thing that like has always been healing for me. And it's so cool because everyone around me knows that my singing is that for me. Like I even remember when I was singing when I was younger, and if I wasn't feeling good, friends of mine would be like, "Just sing." Like sing. And because they knew I would feel so much better after. It was so so cute. Like breakups in high school, friends would be like, "Just sing for us." And then we would all just like hold hands and I would sing to them and it would be fine. Like I just love music so much.
Shouts out to these extremely supportive friends too that you're
I
Yeah.
discussing. Like, oh my God,
yeah,
where were these
I
friends in high
I
school?
know.
Come on.
I have some incredible friends. Oh my God, they're still my best friends and my family too. I could not be doing this without their support. They all are just I'm surrounded by so much love. It's just so special. I feel so grateful.
Absolutely. I actually want
Hmm.
to kind of go back to the Washington elements.
Let's go.
Selfishly. And I could be reading
Yeah.
into this too much, but you mentioned, struggling with depression and anxiety. And
Hmm.
obviously these are things that everybody experiences to various different degrees in their lives. Would you say growing up in Washington, because I don't, for me personally, like
Hmm.
there is always, there is kind of that innate kind of darkness a little bit, like
Hmm.
growing up
Yeah.
there. Did you sort of feel that in a sense? And then also, I think a lot of people don't realize with Washington is people are a little more reserved. So sometimes it is harder to express yourself to certain
Hmm.
people or feel seen or feel heard. Did
Yeah.
you experience that at all?
Oh yeah, it was, I mean, but I weirdly like loved how dark and gloomy it
No,
was.
me too. Me too.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but yes, but I do think that affected everything about, I mean, growing up as an only child in the middle of nowhere, like I'm telling you, like the woods, you know, you couldn't like when I remember going to the town and people could get pizza delivered and I was like, what? You guys can have things delivered? Like that's how I was in the middle of nowhere. And so I think that that shaped a lot of, you know, the way that I viewed the world, feeling very alone all the time. And also just like the schools that I went to were literally also in the woods, like
Whoa.
which is fucking crazy. Like our recess was like, you're in the forest now, have fun, you know? And I think like I want to say like the mindset of the people that I grew up around, the town that I grew up around, wasn't as accepting of artists, of
Mhm.
you know, hyper emotional people. I've always been very sensitive. I don't know, like I would always just if something bothered me, I'd cry because that's how I process. And I was always told I was too sensitive in school by like teachers and everyone. I mean, people probably still think that about me now, but I'm like, hey, at least it works for my music, right? So, so yeah, it definitely affected me a lot as a kid, and I think that's when I, you know, had that moment of like, oh, okay, I can just sing because it's like I'm alone in the little woods. I'm gonna turn to music, and that was my catharsis as a kid. It was like a coping mechanism to deal with how to express myself in a place where I didn't feel like I could do that as much.
For sure. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy too to hear like where you're from because
Hmm.
listening to the record, it you can feel the PNW a little bit in it. Like you
Yeah.
truly can though. Like you
Hmm.
absolutely can. And
Yeah.
that's so cool. Do you find yourself going back there like
I
often? Like,
split my time. Yeah,
oh,
I'm
cool.
half the time in Washington, half the time here. Yeah, yeah. So I love it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. I'm so
yeah.
jealous.
Washington has my heart. I'm
Same.
obsessed with the woods. I go back to film a lot for Echoes things. Most of my music videos were filmed like in battlegrounds, like in fields and battlegrounds.
Wait, was that for the video where you're in the is that for
Over and over.
over and over? Yeah.
Yep,
That's
that's
in
out there.
Battleground?
Yeah.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, yep. And then the video for Carousel is in my dad's friend's field out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, yep.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Before I actually have a question about the videos next, but before that,
Yeah.
I'm actually curious though. Was there a music venue down? I could be just making this up. Was there a venue called like the Quesadilla Factory, like in like Vancouver? That was
I
like
don't
it's a really weird name, but like
Yeah.
I remember growing up and I played in bands as well too, and it was like, oh yeah, if you're gonna play in Vancouver, you play at like the Quesadilla Factory. And I think it was like kind of near Battleground, sort of, but I don't know if you ever
There
played
was
there.
one kind of near Battleground, but it was called the White Elephant because it
Okay.
was this giant like white like a Grange hall. But I don't know about the Quesadilla Factory. That I'm gonna have to ask my friends about it now.
I
But
could
yeah, there was one called, what was it? There was something, it was like the Noise Box, and I was never allowed to go, and that's where like all the like hardcore shows were. I never got to go because again, I was in the woods and my parents were like, "No, you're not gonna go out of the woods to this random venue with your friends." So yeah, I was like always at home in the woods in high school, guys.
I just looked it up. I was wrong.
Okay.
It was
Okay,
in
what was it called?
it was called the Quesadilla Factory, but it was in Centralia, Washington.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is. I love Centralia is beautiful.
It
Yeah.
is.
It is so pretty. But yeah, the quesadilla factory. No, I never went. Yeah.
Neither did I. R.I.P. It doesn't look like it exists anymore.
Yeah,
So.
man, that sounds like a cool place. I love quesadillas.
And a
So
factory of them? That's crazy.
yeah, that sounds like my
Nonetheless.
dream.
Yeah. So going into the videos,
hmm
I've read that you creative direct all of the music videos, which is super cool.
Thank you.
And now sort of describing how important it was to film them where you're from,
hmm
um, with that, like, what is your creative process when it comes to sort of coming up with the visuals and sort of tapping into that area of your brain, to get there?
Yeah, I always start with mood board, and again, it's an idea that will just kind of come to me, and I'll be like,
Mhm.
this. Like I remember for Carousel, I was just like, yeah, there's going to be a car involved. That was the whole thing, trying to get cars for that. But yeah, I just make a mood board and kind of just write out every idea that I have, and try to think of what the song makes me feel mood wise, what the color feels like. I don't have, is it called a synesthesia? I can never say the
Synesthesia.
word.
Yes.
Synesthesia.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I quite have that, but I do feel like in my mind's eye, like a color for each song. And I knew that Carousel felt really cold, so I wanted it to be like outside at night. And I knew I wanted a car there. So I kind of just go again off of feeling, and whatever is like coming to me, I just try to figure out how to make that happen. And I just follow my intuition, which I know that method can be like I wish I had a better way of like conceptualizing it and putting it into words, other than my creative direction just goes off of feeling, and everyone that works with me is like, all right. And it's really fun. It ends up working out.
Are there any like films that you've seen that have sort of inspired the way that you look at the visual aspect of your music as well, would you say?
Ooh. For my previous record, yes, I was really inspired by a lot of Wes Anderson films and that.
Mhm.
But for this specific one, no, I just kind of went off of like feeling and channeling whatever I felt, and I guess trying to bring what is in my head into the physical world. And so it was just like, this song feels like this color, this song feels like this color. Yeah, that was my process for Quiet in Your Service.
That's awesome. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
sounds like you have a synesthesia. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
maybe I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I should
that's
look into that more.
yeah, yeah. Do you like go get a test? You're like, you have synesthesia.
I think you can. I'm pretty sure you can like take a quiz online or something, but I'm like, oh, I already take so many quizzes for all the things. I'm like, add another one to the list.
I love taking the quizzes, and then at the end, when you're about to get your results, it's like, now pay $30 to get your results. You're
hmm
like, oh shit.
Yeah, you're like, on to the next website. Yes. Yep.
Uh, absolutely. And then, signing to Outlast for this record,
hmm
how did this sort of come about? Obviously, Outlast, is I believe in partnership with Sumerian Records as well,
hmm
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
walk me through sort of getting linked up with that team over there. And
Yeah, that was through mutual friends, and they had introduced me to the label, and I was being managed by someone who was working there too, and it kind of just was like a natural progression of like, this just felt like a good home for this record, and especially, pivoting sonically, they really understood my vision, and it just felt like gonna try this out and see what happens. So I'm really grateful that they took a chance on my project, and yeah, they gave me full creative control over everything, which was really cool.
and now that the album is out, it's very newly out. I think we're just about
Yeah.
12 days since the release.
Mm.
How are you feeling now that it's out in the world?
Oh, it's so weird. Yeah, it always feels weird when the project no longer like belongs to you, because
Mhm.
it was just between like my friends and I on a little playlist for gosh, I think we've been working on it for almost 2 years. And knowing that it's not just on a SoundCloud playlist is like, all right, everybody, here's my diary. So it's crazy. Yeah, it feels good. Overall, I feel like a huge like sigh of relief that it's out. Anytime anything comes out into the world, I'm like, all right, it no longer belongs to me. So I'm very happy it's out. I'm so excited because it just feels like I'm in a new place in my life where I just have so much confidence and self-love for the first time. And having a record where I feel that way, it's so special to finally be in that space. So I feel like I can properly celebrate this time. Hmm.
I love that. I mean,
Thank you.
that's so cool too, like that, you know, at this point in your career, like you're feeling that celebration and you're feeling that relief, and putting it out.
Yeah,
That's really great.
I think it's because like depression tends to steal a lot of moments from you.
Mhm.
And this is the first time where I'm just like proud and I can be like, yes, like I made this versus like I used to be so shy and so just like wouldn't let myself celebrate anything. And now I have so much self-love. I'm surrounded by people that are so loving, and that just makes this whole process so fun.
That's incredible. I'm so glad that
Thank you.
you're at that point right now. That's incredible.
Me too. I hope it can inspire people because I mean, I struggle with really bad depression, ADHD, anxiety, and it's like I'm very open with my fans about it, and it does steal a lot from you, and it steals huge important moments from you, and so it feels really good to just be in a place where it's like I can appreciate it and celebrate it and be excited. So I owe a lot of that to therapy and being around really, really healthy, healing people. And it's changed my life, truly.
That's like the most important thing. Good people
Hmm.
and not being afraid. Like to anybody listening, therapy is a great thing.
Yes.
Everybody should do
Yes.
therapy.
Yes. I
Yes.
believe every human being should be in therapy, actually. But
Yes.
Me too.
Mandatory.
Mandatory. And
Mhm.
another thing like I'm huge about is I want to find ways to make it more accessible for people. I know there's a lot of really cool things online now because I feel like, yeah, everybody deserves access to therapy and mental health care because it's so important. I mean, it's life-saving, truly. Like my
Mhm.
therapist absolutely saved my life. Like it changed my life, and I'm so grateful for it. I want everyone to be able to overcome their mental health battles because it's debilitating, and I definitely have experienced it. And coming out on the other side, I don't know if you ever fully heal, right? It's just a part of you that you kind of learn how to move through. So
Yeah, I agree
yeah.
with that. I think therapy also gives you, yeah, I feel like depression, anxiety, even trauma is something that is with you for forever, but you learn, yeah, it becomes a part of you and you learn through therapy and being around positive people who are, vibrating at your level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always look at it as tools on
Yes.
how to deal with it when things arise. Because I also, get it, have anxiety. I'm in therapy. I'm very much an advocate. I'm on medication and I am very much an advocate and very loud about medication. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to take medication and there doesn't need to be a stigma around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very normal, okay thing.
Yeah.
And I just look at it as those things are always going to be there, but it's so important to know, to have the tools to work around it and to have something, thank God for there's artists like you in the world who, you know, um, your music is also another tool that can be used for people when they're in those moments, and are able to relate to you and resonate with you or are in a low moment and maybe, yeah, aren't able to speak to their therapist right away, but they can turn on the Echoes album and kind of just have that solace. So yeah, it's so important. And yeah, I'm big on that stuff as well, and I'm very happy for you, as you should feel happy for yourself, and you absolutely deserve
Thank
it.
you. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I'm super happy that you are happy this is out in the world because we are all
Yeah.
happy. It's
Thank you. Yeah, I feel so good. I feel like I was definitely a little nervous of like, how are people gonna, receive this, right? And my fans are so supportive and loving, and they were like, oh yeah, this makes sense. So Yeah, it feels really good. But yes, huge advocate for therapy too. I think everyone, it's so healing, and it's okay to not be okay. And there are people that want to help you and listen to you and make you feel seen. And again, like art being a huge part of that for me is like always a really important tool to turn to. So I love what you said about that. Having tools to turn to, they're so important.
Absolutely. And just because I feel like all three of us are passionate about it, I just want to add for anyone listening too. I know that a lot of people in my own personal world, as well as out there, have had very negative experiences with therapy. And I just want anyone to know and understand there's bad eggs in everything, and to please not give up. And there is someone out there who will be willing to work with you and is ethical. So, please don't give up if you feel like you need it. Listen to Echo's album until you find that person. You know what I'm saying? Please, that is something, sadly, I hear from a lot of people who want therapy but have just had very negative experiences. And I feel horrible that they've had those experiences, but please don't give up. There are actual professionals, people who conduct professionally out there who will help you. And a good support system like friends and positive, non-toxic people in your life that are there for you and can also help you. I've helped a few of my friends seek therapy. So, I just felt really called to say that because I know that's something a lot of people struggle with.
You're right. You go.
Oh, sorry. No, I want to echo that as well too, because I have an incredible therapist. She's amazing. But it's very true. Sometimes it doesn't stick the first time. The last therapist I had, he would eat soup over Zoom while I'd be talking to him, and it was like probably not going to work out. But now I've got this amazing. So it's okay. There are millions of people that are licensed therapists, and they're hopefully incredible and will be the right fit for you. You'll find the right person.
Like you were saying, it's like finding people that are vibrating on your frequency. It sometimes takes a while to find a therapist who understands your way of being, your language. We all have a specific way of communication and relating, and it's so important to find a therapist that you feel 100% safe with, emotionally safe with. And there are, like, you will find that, but it definitely, if you've had a bad experience, of course it deters you from wanting to go back to that, because it's a lot. You're trying to get help and then it doesn't work out, and then it like adds to it. So yeah, it's so important to keep trying, because when you find the right therapist, it really is such a beautiful, beautiful healing thing, and you deserve to heal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen. I mean, not me, but yes. But like, no, just like, just completely like, I feel like everything that you have been touching on has been very inspiring. And I feel like this has already been such a great interview. And I feel like people are going to get so much out of this conversation. Like I am going to come away feeling very inspired. I'm sure Ariel will as well.
Yeah. I love that. Obviously we're talking about music and your music career, but I also feel like in a way, which of course naturally is going to happen because of who you are as an artist, what your music is inspired by. Like, this is also, I feel like, turned into a very like hopefully helpful episode to some people, and really talking about the importance of mental health, manifestation, and those are all things that are very important to you and are big themes obviously within your music. So I think it was natural things came out. But yeah, this has been a really fun episode, and I feel like I've even learned things being on the episode.
Thank you for both giving me the space to talk about it. I'm having so much fun. I feel so comfortable to just I feel you both are. I think we're all, now that we all know we live like in the same area, there's a vibe here, and I really enjoy this. Thank you like so much. Like I sometimes get nervous in interviews that I'm like saying stupid shit, but I feel really good right now. I don't know. So thank you. It's mutual. I feel really, really good.
Of course. No, not Nothing has been stupid at all.
Thanks.
It's been, in fact, quite the contrary to stupid.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. See, that's how my brain works. Another thing I was going to mention for mental health was to try and make sure you have positive self-talk.
mm,
That's a huge one, and that's really hard sometimes. And so I have to catch myself, but I listen to a lot of positive affirmations every day, and that helps too.
it-
Yeah.
it's always
Mhm.
have to silence the inner critic at
Yes.
any chance you can. It's yeah,
Yes.
the inner critic is the worst thing. And yeah.
Yeah, the inner critic is not, my friends and I call him the thinking man. And I'll be like, the thinking man is here. And you have to be like, no. So yeah, silence the thinking man.
I think of mine as like a really snarky, like pitchfork music reviewer who's like,
Yeah,
this fucking, you suck.
Yours would be a
yeah,
pitchfork.
0.5 out of 10. Derivative,
yeah.
generic. You know?
That's your thinking man.
Yeah, that's
What's
my
your
thinking, man.
what is your thinking man like?
Mine is myself just constantly. It's so crazy. Literally going to sleep last night, I was having a bit of a thinking man moment. I just couldn't turn it off. And mine is myself talking back at me.
Yeah.
You're not doing enough. Why aren't you doing this?
Oh,
Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. So mine's more just myself talking back at me. And yes, I have many methods of quieting myself and telling myself to
yes.
shut up.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
bedtime. So
Yep.
yeah, we all have it for sure.
And it's crazy because I think all of our thinking men tell us the same thing. But like, I would never, you'd never look at what you're doing and be like, I wouldn't think that. Like, I wouldn't be like, you're not doing enough or you're not doing
Yeah.
enough, right? So why do
Yeah.
we think that about ourselves? Like, our friends aren't thinking those things, but our thinking man is like, you suck. That's the voice we've given ours. You should give up. And then
Yeah.
so yeah, it's so dumb. I don't know why. I'm trying hard to silence the thinking man. So
Let's
yeah.
put a PSA out there. Fuck the
Yeah.
thinking man.
Fuck the
Okay?
thinking man.
Cancel
Yeah.
the thinking man.
Yeah,
He
the
just
thinking man is
fuck him.
canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that
Fully
piece of
agree.
just
I should
fuck.
make merch that says thinking man with like a red cross through
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
absolutely should do that.
Yeah, and like make a sign that says this is a no thinking man zone.
Oh my God.
Another mug design.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll order
So
as many of those
no
shirts
thinking
as
man mugs. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh
Well,
man.
so
Yeah.
so kind of last thing, the album's
Hmm.
out. What's sort of next? Like, can we expect? Obviously, you have a show tomorrow here in LA at the
Yeah.
Westin, but
I'm
like,
so
can we
excited.
expect more shows, tours? What's coming next in the pipeline?
Yeah, we are working on putting some touring together because I really want to tour this record. This record is meant to be performed and meant to be felt. I think an Echoes live show, they're always very cathartic and very healing, and I want it to be felt like in the real world. So planning on that. I don't know how much I can say about it. I'm already working on more music, so I'm really excited about that. Exploring a lot of new sounds and doing a lot of lessons for vocals and things and playing around with just making art and just following my intuition and having so much fun with it. So you can expect more shows and more music. I have so much music.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
excited.
we can't wait to hear what's next. Obviously, we have this amazing album to listen to right now,
Thank
and
you so much.
just congratulations on all of it. I mean, I know
Thank you.
we've been talking your ear off with so much congratulations, but it's completely genuine. Like,
Oh, no, it fit.
cannot express it enough.
That means a lot, truly. It's like hard for me to take compliments, so I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And talking with you both has like it weirdly feels like catching up with like two old friends or something. I feel very comfortable. So thank
Aw,
you for providing a space to just let me be myself. I really appreciate it.
of
Absolutely.
course. Thank you so much for saying that. Well,
Yeah.
we will let you get back to your day, and just want to thank you so much. And please, like, we will plug everything and let us know if you need anything. And I
Oh,
believe y'all
thank
are
you.
doing a photo shoot together as well too, which is
Yes,
Yes.
awesome.
We have an Echoes and Pretty Cult photo shoot coming up.
I'm so excited. The mood board is so cool. I got so excited when I opened it, so I can't wait.
Maya, who is also editing this episode, is the photographer for that shoot, and she's absolutely incredible. And I think your guys' natural style is going to be really, really sick together.
I can't wait. I love her work so much, so I'm really excited. It's going to be so fun. I've been following her for a while, so when Tori reached out, I was like, "Oh my God, yes." I'm just excited to finally meet you too, so it'll be so fun.
Absolutely. Yes, I will be at that shoot. So,
Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I This has been so fun. Seriously, thank you.
of course,
Absolutely. No,
thank you.
thank you. Okay. Well, this was the House of Cult podcast, and thank you so much for listening.